watching Big 12 now on ESPN+. College football is back. Here in Fort Worth, Texas, Duquesne comes to town to take on TCU in the 2021 season opener. And more than anything, fans have returned. We've seen it across college football. The incredible atmospheres that we missed so much a season ago are back. And here in Fort Worth, that is no different. They are excited about this team, and we're excited to have stadiums full again.
Yeah, for whatever reason, a year ago, even though we played a college football season, it never quite felt like it. To be on campus, to be around fans, the atmosphere, the fandom, the legacy, the history is undefeated.
Well, and this fan base has something to be excited about. Here come the Horned Frogs. That team led by a third-year starter now in quarterback Max Duggan, and they've got a lot of talent around him, so they're looking to him, hey, where are you going to take us this year?
Gary Patterson has given Max Duggan the keys to the car, and it's not like it's some beat-up car, all right? It's a brand new one, and it is fully loaded. 4 running backs, about 6 wide receivers, and an offensive line if it can stay healthy. It's all up to him. He has the keys to the future, to this season's success for the Horned Frogs.
On the other side of the ball, Gary Patterson drives that car, and he does it pretty well year in and year out with this defense. And they've got 2 studs in O'Shawn Mathis and Travius Hodges-Tomlinson.
Yeah, O'Shawn Mathis is a guy that can be a force up front and get to the quarterback. Gary Patterson's looking for a 3 down front that will get to the quarterback and allow his back end, which is usually his strongest part, led by Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, to make big plays.
They're ready to roll here in Fort Worth. We are too. Fans are back. College football returns to Fort Worth, Texas. Duquesne, TCU. Kickoff is next. The Big 12 now on ESPN Plus returns. We are in Fort Worth, Texas on a beautiful evening for Week 1 football between Duquesne and TCU. Fans have returned, and TCU set to open their 2021 season against an FCS opponent here, led by that man right there in his 17th season, Jerry Schmidt, the all-time winningest coach at Duquesne. He was pretty honest with us, Ryan. He said, look, I got to be careful. I don't look across the sideline and see Gary Patterson and get a little starstruck.
Yeah, he talked about being at a few AFC conventions, watching the guy, the second longest tenured coach in big-time college football, speaking and get a little starstruck. You're exactly right.
His team played their last game less than 5 months ago on April 11th. They played in the spring, and here they are less than 5 months later, set to kick off their season against a Big 12 opponent in TCU. The Horned Frogs, Duquesne won the toss and deferred. TCU will get the ball first.
It's got to be something pretty cool for this Duquesne team to witness this. Their home stadium holds 2,000 people. There are over 2,000 students alone in the student section tonight, going a little wild early on.
There's Gary Patterson, year number 21. You mentioned it, the second longest tenured head coach in major college football here at TCU. They love him here. They've had a ton of success, and they feel like this can be a pretty darn good season as well.
Looked like he was already in midseason form there with some yelling.
Duquesne has it teed up, and off we go from Fort Worth. From the goal line. And tackled right at about the 20-yard line. Not much doing on the return. It was J.D. Spielman in his first action returning for the Horned Frogs. A flag on the far side of the field. We get our first word from referee Scott Campbell.
Holding, number 12, return team. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
And our first look at Max Duggan The 6'2 junior in his third season as a starter, almost 1,800 passing yards last season. He can do everything, though, Ryan. He ran and led this team in rushing with over 500 yards.
Big scare last summer, if you recall. Had a heart condition exposed during fall camp. We didn't know if he was ever going to play football again, and then had a spectacular season down the stretch.
Duggan in the shotgun, first play of 2021. He wants to throw it and has a man for a first down across the 20. It's Savion Williams.
Williams is one of those wide receivers I told you about. There's probably 6 of them, 3 of them of which are over 6'4", Savion Williams being one of them.
Williams, 6'5" sophomore. Jerry Keel talked to him yesterday on this coaching staff, said he was really excited to see what he could bring to the table. First and 10 for Duggan. Fakes the handoff, wants to throw again. He's looking for Williams down the sideline and just overthrew him. Williams might have slowed up at the beginning of that route. Incomplete.
Sometimes when you're a young wide receiver, you get coached quite a bit about this. When the ball's in the air, to continue to pump your arms. Sometimes we tend to look up at the ball, and as it's flying through the air, we stop moving forward because we won't keep pumping our arms. He'll learn.
Second and 10 after the first incompletion, but TCU challenging this defense through the air here in the first couple plays. Duggan play action, looking across the middle, a little bit behind him, and a nice play by Ryan Webb at that corner position.
Tremendous job by Ryan Webb here, number 3 for Duquesne. The ball's thrown perfectly. It just gets his hand in there and is able to knock it down and set up this third down.
He played in the spring season. It was his first action at Duquesne. He was a Marist transfer where he spent 4 years there, an all-league guy. They have 15 FBS transfers on this Duquesne team.
This is important for Duggan in this offense. On third down, find a way to convert, keep this drive moving forward.
And Duggan's going to have to burn a timeout.
Timeout. TCU.
They didn't like something, and so on third and 10, they'll talk it over.
We're going to have to see a little bit of issues because it's game one, right? Everywhere you look on every single network and every single team, you're going to see a bunch of mistakes. You're going to see penalties. You're going to see early timeouts in first halves because this is what it's about. It's not a game where, let's say, Georgia's playing Clemson. You're playing maybe the best team you'll play all year long in week 1, Wisconsin, Penn State today. This is an opportunity for you to kind of get your kinks out a little bit before your conference schedule heats up.
You talked about it, the heart procedure that Duggan had before last season. It was discovered during COVID testing. So when he came back, he didn't start the Iowa State game. He entered at halftime and almost led a comeback in that game. They outscored Iowa State 27-21 and ended up losing by just 3. But this is a much cleaner start to the season for him. They say he's walking around with some confidence right now. Here it is, third and 10. Duggan looking downfield to his right, has a man along the sideline. It's caught. Blair Conright with his first catch of the season.
Rolling on the field.
Wonderful job by their slot receiver. He just takes his defender up the field.
Rolling on the field is a completed catch.
And does a tremendous job
down.
of switching off and getting to the outside, and Duggan puts it right on the muddy. Picks up a big third down and long.
14 yards on the play up to the 37. They do have a lot of options at receiver. You talked about some of those guys with size. They've got just the perfect mixture of size and speed for Duggan to find. This time he's going to hand it off. Imari DiMercato with his first one. Bounces it outside down the sideline, out of bounds. Close to a first down. He got it. 11 on the carry.
They're going to use all 4 running backs I talked about. Imari DiMercato, Zach Evans, DeMarque Foster, and Kendre Miller. All 4 of them. And whoever kind of gets hot, that's who they're going to roll with. It's nice to have those options, those ingredients.
Duggan included, they had 5 guys last year with 45-plus carries, so that backfield has some experience. They lost Darwin Barlow, who was a freshman to a transfer to USC, but
Going on the field.
Zach Evans, their highest recruit ever,
Under further review.
will step into a larger role, and they like the other three as well. So we have an official review.
I can only imagine that maybe a targeting or a spot. Okay. Going to look for a spot there, maybe on where he went out of bounds. Here's a look at it again. Oh. It's a good look at the official stepping in there. There we go. All right. Yeah, he's got plenty of yardage for the first down. I just maybe make sure they get it right, exactly where it is. You know, don't forget it's early season jitters for the referees too here. Everybody working the kinks out.
Very precise.
You and I, you know, making sure we have everything just right. You come up with a catchphrase yet in your early career here?
I was waiting for Ryan Leaf to help me out with that, actually.
All right, we'll probably pull something from Anchorman. I think that's probably where we'll pull a few things. All right, looks like he goes out just a yard or so past the first down marker there.
So 1st and 10. Unusual review for you there?
Yeah, a little bit. But hey, they want to get it right all the time. There's nothing wrong with being a perfectionist.
1st and 10 at the 48. DeMercado still in the backfield for TCU. Duggan. Quick to the outside. Quentin Johnston fighting off a tackler. He gets about 6. Ryan Webb again in on the stop.
Okay, so I talked about the 6-headed monster at wide receiver. 3 of them, which are the upperclassmen, are all about 5'9". Then they make a jump to about 6'4" through 6'5".
This way again for the big man. Savion Williams breaks a tackle across the 35. Another first down for TCU on a drive where Duggan likes to show off the arm.
Yeah, you honestly could do this every down if they're going to play a cushion like they are out there against these wide receivers. And as soon as they step up and press,
Duggan looking deep. Webb got some hands on, and it's out of bounds. He was looking for Quentin Johnston again, who averaged 22 yards per catch last season, which was the highest by a true freshman in Big 12 history. So you see why he likes looking downfield for him.
And Duggan, you know, he's got to keep that ball in bounds. When you have that receiver, you got to keep that in bounds.
They motion Darius Davis, the speedster, into the backfield to the right of Duggan. Handoff to DeMercado in the backfield. It's Maxi Hradechny, the Austrian native.
Look at the big fella making his presence felt here. No one blocks him. He steps in, doesn't go for the fake. Absolutely right there. Johnny on the spot pulls down DeMercado for a huge tackle for loss. Duquesne doesn't wear names on the back of their jerseys, but maybe we can nickname him TFL after that one.
Hradechny, an all-conference first-team member in the NEC. That's a loss of 6. They go quickly to Darius Davis, and Davis shakes through a couple defenders down to the 30-yard line. Agoro on the stop.
I thought that was a pretty good play call there on 3rd down to get them in a position where they could go for it. And that's exactly what Gary Patterson and the Horned Frogs are going to do here on 4th down.
Big chance for Duquesne early in this game to get a little stop and some confidence. 4th and 5 for Duggan. And a whistle from the far side. Timeout Duquesne as they want to talk about this.
Timeout Duquesne. First of the half. Timeout on the field.
The long drive continues when we return. 4th and 5 for Duggan and TCU. Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. Back here in Fort Worth, the 11th play of the opening drive for TCU. Duggan 5 of 8 on the drive for 54 yards. He's found 4 different wide receivers. What are we looking for right here?
If I'm him right now, I'm looking up top of your screen right now, and I'm going at the big fella on a simple 7-yard hitch because he's just got the body that can post somebody up. And Ryan Webb, I don't think, would have a chance.
That's Quentin Johnston at the top of your screen, who is 6'4". Ryan Webb at just 5'9". 4th and 5. Duggan looking that direction on a little in route, and a nice grab by Johnston, who stays on his feet. A 10-yard pickup to the 20 before a shoelace tackle.
Wonderful job of him. Watch as he gets inside here, and look where the throw is. The throw is right on the middle of his belt. Doesn't allow Webb to come over the top, and they were able to almost break it for a touch, but they get the first down on 4th.
DeMetal made a nice shoestring tackle. They convert 4th down, the 6th completion for Duggan on the drive. Little fake. Johnston got tied up, and Duggan gets hit. There is a flag over there, probably going to be holding against Webb.
Ryan Webb made a great play on that first in-breaking route. He's going to have a long day battling Johnston over there. That's for sure.
Holding, number 3. Defense, 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. First down.
Well, Webb on one side at 5'9". On the other side, Tim Lowry at 6 feet. And you said it. They're going to go at Webb as much as they can.
Still, you know, the guys we wanted to talk about, Quentin Johnston, 6'4". Savion Williams, 6'5". Jaquarius Spivey, 6'4", 6'5". Quincy Brown, another 6'4" wide receiver. There are some weapons for Max Duggan.
1st and goal for Duggan and company. DeMercado on the carry. And not much doing. Gets a couple. DeBrito in on the tackle.
When you play an opponent like this, and I had plenty of opportunities in my time where we played the University of Montana, or when you have a game like this, you want to be able to take your shots. You want to be able to be as efficient as you can, but you know this is a learning process.
2nd and goal from the 8. Johnston in motion. Duggan's going to keep it across the 5. Duggan into the end zone. Touchdown, Horned Frogs.
This is where Max Duggan brings that extra variable, his ability to use his feet here. They run with the sweep, fake sweep. He keeps the ball, has a wide open path to the end zone.
Had 10 rushing touchdowns last season. He gets his first one on the first drive of 2021. Griffin Kell connects on the extra point, and TCU leads it 7-0.
Here we go, Max Duggan back home with the fans. Horned Frogs up 7-0.
"13 plays, 90 yards for Gary Patterson's club and their junior quarterback Max Duggan, who gets on the board and surpassed 5,000 career yards on this first drive."
Wonderful play call here. They try to fake the sweep. They bring everybody across the field and come back across the grain. Max Duggan using that extra variable I talked about, his feet. 90 yards. Couldn't have asked probably for a better first drive out the gate for the Horned Frogs.
Duggan on the phone after a successful drive in the start. TCU wanted a long one. They threw the ball successfully. And here we go. Griffin Kell set to tee it up and give Duquesne their first possession in this game. We'll see what their offense can do against a stout TCU defense. Ezekiel Dower and Joey Isabella deep to return as Kell sends this out of the end zone.
All right. Leading the Duquesne Dukes is going to be their quarterback, number 11, Joe Mishler. All right. He's the guy that everybody seems to really follow. Not a big quarterback, right? Only 5'11", local kid, Erie, Pennsylvania, transfer from Ohio. He's a coach's son, incredibly confident, and he is definitely the leader of this team.
You talked about what TCU wanted to do in a game like this. After this play, let's hear what Duquesne wants to do in a game like this. We talked to him all week. This is a big-time atmosphere as it's a handoff on the first play to Joaquin Gill, the K-State transfer, trying to bounce outside and gets back to the line of scrimmage. What is Duquesne looking for in a game like this? How can you play this team?
Well, they are a no-huddle normal offense, right? They like tempo, but they understand in a game like this, it's about shortening the game, less possessions for TCU, so therefore they're going to take most of the 30-second play clock, right? They're going to take as much time as they can and then try to be as efficient, grind out each drive. They can't go 3 and out every single time and leave their defense on the field all night long.
2nd and 10 for Mishler. The Ohio transfer, another handoff out of the backfield. This is Garrett Owens. And he eats up about 4 yards to make it 3rd and medium.
They're going to have to throw it. They get themselves into 3rd and manageable positions. Mishler, with his size, is going to have to move around a little bit to find some throwing lanes and pick up 6 yards. Continue the drive, extend it, and like I said, shorten this kind of game for the Dukes.
Duquesne was 7th in the FCS in 3rd down conversions this spring, just under 52%. But the pass rushers for TCU probably have the ears pinned back right here, coming after Mishler. Rolling to his right, Mathis closing. And behind his receiver, almost intercepted. Bud Clark, the safety, coming down.
Bud Clark, the 6'2", 190-pound sophomore out of Louisiana, was right there on the spot. Ball's thrown behind him. He had a receiver open, breaking on the flag route. That could have been 6 the other way. Not only does that present a 3 and out, but now the defense has to get ready to step back out against this TCU offense.
Zach Sturda punted away to Darius Davis, the dangerous return man, an all-conference special teams guy. This is in danger territory. It'll take a Duquesne bounce down to the 40, and that's where Duggan and company take over for their second look.
Probably not the best punt.
Just 31 yards on the punt. We get to see Duggan again, though. What is it in his 3rd season that you're looking for out of Max Duggan? What's the progression he needs to take this year?
Well, he's got to be more efficient, all right, which I think every quarterback does. What you're doing, 60.8% a year ago. If he can raise that, a little bit higher, they're looking at areas around 65, maybe 70% in terms of completion percentage. That's the kind of efficiency you're seeing more and more out of the elite quarterbacks in the country.
DeMercado, the back here on drive number 2 as well, and they'll hand it to him on the first play. Gets upended. There's a flag on the play back behind the line of scrimmage. Jeremiah Joseph's on the tackle.
Holding, number 69, offense, 10-yard penalty from the previous spot, still first down.
That's the right guard, Coy McMillan, who made 4 starts last year on this offensive line. That's a spot they're a little banged up at right now. Talked to Gary Patterson. He said, look, we're looking for 8 guys that can play those positions. Coy McMillan, a guy who can slide over to center, can do a lot of different things, but they're without Wes Harris, who they think is their best offensive lineman. And that's a spot that they'll be looking to shore up here in the first couple weeks. 1st and 20. Duggan hands off again to DeMercado, who's going to cut it all the way back across the field. He's got Duggan out in front blocking for him, and a first down for DeMercado. 22 on the carry beyond midfield.
This play was blown up in the backfield, and DeMarcado just reverses field. Now the right guard gets beat, but they don't have enough lateral speed here to run down DeMarcado. And if Duggan could have turned around just a split second sooner, he may have been able to spring him for a big touchdown.
It's been all Emari DeMarcado here on the first couple drives. Duggan wants to go downfield, has a man on a corner route. Tay Barber down inside the 20 near the 15-yard line.
Used to love this play. You roll to your left and you allow your inside receiver to fake coming across the field, pulls everybody across, and then he goes back the other way. Perfectly thrown ball to Barber.
34 on the play, a broken tackle on the far side, and a push down inside the 5. That's Quentin Johnston. All 6'4", 200 pounds of him, tackled by Jeremiah Josephs.
That's another first down.
Max Duggan, when he looks at film every single day, he's got to just be like slobbering. Like Pavlov's dog. You hear a bell ring and he's just, I got to throw to these wide receivers all year long.
Jerry Kill said he walks around with a big smile on his face these days, knowing who he's got to throw to on the outside. Look at this set. Everybody in tight here. Duggan hands off to DeMarcado, and touchdown. 13-zip, Horned Frogs.
That drive was really all set up for the offensive line to kind of make a statement, I thought. They ran on the first down, and then they ran a play where you needed a lot of protection for Duggan to get the ball down the field, and then there at the goal line to get the touchdown, they just kind of paved the way.
DeMarcado didn't have a rushing touchdown a season ago. Here on week number 1, he gets on the board. Griffin Kell fires the extra point through. It's just the start that TCU wanted here in the opener.
This is how the Horned Frogs finish it off. DeMarcado into the end zone to take the lead, 14-0.
Next Saturday, it's 4 games on Big 12 now. 5 p.m. Eastern, Long Island at West Virginia, who fell to Maryland today. And then 7 Eastern, Texas Southern Baylor, Southern Illinois K-State, and Stephen F. Austin, Texas Tech. Sign up now if you don't have it already at espnplus.com/Big 12 Now. There's Gary Patterson in his 21st season here at TCU, approaching the 180 win mark, and saw this on game day as well. But the longest tenured head coaches in Division I football, Kirk Ferentz, the only one that has more than Gary Patterson over in Iowa. But Gundy on there, Whittingham, but Gary Patterson and the program he has built here, you cannot overstate how much this fan base loves him.
Not only the fan base, but just everybody in general, what he does for the community, what he's meant to this TCU program, their advancement from division to conference, and now in a situation where they are probably one of the leading contenders in this conference in the next few years of the Big 12 to really be a dominant force.
Everywhere they've been, they've won. Kell sends it away. Dower retreats into the end zone. Another touchback for Griffin Kell. We get our second look at Joe Mishler. And this is the big one, especially in these parts, Ryan, because the win percentage among schools in Texas is the best, right in front of Texas, who they have had a ton of success against.
7-2 against the Longhorns so far since joining the Big 12. That is bragging rights in this state. Maybe the SEC should have came after TCU instead of Texas.
Well, in week 5, the Longhorns come to Fort Worth, and that could be quite the matchup if both those teams come in unbeaten. Down the field and just overthrew his target, Davey Henderson on the deep post pattern. Mishler wishing he had that one back.
Yeah, in a game like this, When you have an opportunity with a wide open wide receiver down the middle of the field, you got to connect there. That's stuff for legends for the FCS. When you get an opportunity like that, you can make a huge play on national television and head back to Pittsburgh with a little smile on your face. Yeah, a little swag.
Instead, it's 2nd and 10.
And when you're a 5'11" quarterback, Chucky, you gotta find a way to get some swag going.
Says the 6'7" guy.
Yeah.
D. Winters in on the stop after a 3-yard carry for Garrett Owens.
Gary Patterson talked to us really about what he wanted differently, because a year ago they just couldn't get pressure with 3 guys, right? With 3 down linemen. That's what he wants. He wants to be able to get pressure with 3 guys, let 8 drop, and keep everything in front of them and rally and make tackles.
Mathis in a track stance at this left end.
Another 3rd down. Desperately needed to convert to get that, keep that defense with a little rest on the sideline.
Mishler to throw. Has a little bit of time, takes a hit. It's picked off. Did he catch it? Yes, he did. Travius Hodges Tomlinson, his first of the season for TCU.
They go back to the same type of route they ran on the 1st down play. This time, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, Johnny on the spot, watches the quarterback's eyes the whole time. Defender right in the face of the quarterback, and Tomlinson just undercuts him. Watch his eyes. Watch Tomlinson keep his eyes inside the quarterback. He knows he's got the speed to cover. He's able to break on that ball before the receiver even sees it coming.
And believe it or not, that is his first career interception. A guy who was the highest rated cover corner last year by Pro Football Focus just picks up his first interception of his career.
Bet you Uncle Ladanian is a happy camper there.
They might.
They're going to take a look at it. It looked like, you know, anytime the ball's that low, looks like they've confirmed and not even going to let it go.
Mishler, like you said, that first throw could have been a big play, maybe even a touchdown. Instead, TCU has the football at midfield, and Duggan looking for a 3rd straight score to start the game. Hands off, our first look at Zach Evans, and Evans plows through some defenders. He picks up 14 on his first carry of the season.
Max Duggan sees here right away that he's got the numbers. There's only 5 in the box. He gives it to the running back, and he squeezes through his offensive line and uses that lower body force and strength to pick up a 1st down.
Jerry Kill told us, he said, look, Zach Evans, he's got a chance. He said he loves football, he loves winning, and he's special. The highest rated recruit to ever come to TCU, a 5-star kid, came last year, and he's special. A little trickery here. Quentin Johnson on the reverse, and might have stepped on his own blocker, Carter Ware, as he gets knocked down after about 4 yards. Sutton on the tackle.
Pretty good job there by Duquesne in their pursuit. You know, you talked about the trickery there. Duquesne wasn't fooled, kept leverage, pressed the edge there, and brought him down for a short gain.
Brings up 2nd and 6. Maybe a little pressure coming right here. Duggan gets rid of it quickly. J.D. Spielman, the Nebraska transfer, has a 1st down. They missed him last season, Ryan. He was injured after 3 games. They were looking forward to what he could do after a really successful career at Nebraska. We do have a flag in the backfield. Behind the line of scrimmage, we'll see what they call.
Was right around where the quarterback was before he let go of the football.
After the play's over, sportsmanlike conduct, number 68, defense. 15-yard penalty added to the end of the run. That's automatic 1st down.
A.J. Ackerman.
First sportsmanlike conduct foul in the game.
And that's not going to help their cause. Ackerman, an O-lineman, turned defensive lineman. They needed help at that position, so they moved him over last season. That takes TCU all the way down to the 11-yard line.
You're already going to be at a disadvantage simply because of the scholarship difference, the divisions. You can't make mistakes like that and expect to hang in this game very long.
Horned Frogs looking to make it a 3-score game before the 2-minute mark here in the first quarter. Evans to the 5-yard line before he's knocked down.
And off goes Evans. Stop is made by DeBrito.
Well, we've already seen, Ryan, this really the depth of the weapons that TCU has on this side of the ball. If they can stay healthy, this is going to be a really dangerous offense. And if they do get banged up a little bit, that's the positive. They have options.
They do have options, but they have to get healthy on the offensive line. That's the one position on the offense right now where they don't have a cohesive unit.
Evans spinning down toward the 1-yard line. It's like just shy of the marker. It'll bring up 3rd and short. Kurzinger on the stop.
Stop is made by number 97, Kevin Kurzinger.
All right, 3rd and less than a yard. You know what? I'll probably hand it to Evans here again, knowing that you're probably either going to get in the end zone or have another set of downs.
Pistol set for Duggan. And they will give it to Evans, who easily into the end zone for the touchdown. Zach Evans first of his sophomore season. His 5th career rushing touchdown. Just a 6-play perfection right now for TCU. Kell 3 for 3 on the extra points.
All right, well, it started with the interception. Travius Hodges Tomlinson here. Watch his eyes. He keeps him inside. He knows the ball's being thrown. He makes the jump. He gets underneath it, makes the interception. That sets up the drive here to Zach Hodges, who runs his offensive lineman, Obina Eze, over 4-6. Travius Hodges Tomlinson, of course, has a pretty famous uncle. After my departure from San Diego, they were able to draft somebody named LaDainian out of TCU. And boy, was he an all-star in the NFL. He's been a wonderful role model for young Travius and really is a huge part of TCU. It's good to see his family here being represented.
Well, in his last 2 years alone at TCU, over 2,000 yards rushing. We got the full tour yesterday. They little addition here to Amon G. Carter Stadium and a giant mural of LaDainian Tomlinson over on the new press box side. He is very active with this school, with this program, and he is a legend in Fort Worth.
Well, actually, you know, the San Diego Charger fan base can be thankful because of how poorly I played my first few years in the league. They were able to draft LaDainian so high. So this is just a you're welcome, San Diego.
I was going to say, make sure you tell them that. As you see the Pro Football Focus, they graded him the top coverage corner. He's a little bit undersized. That would be the one thing. 5'9", 177, but he is an absolute stud. And look at some of the names on there. Pat Surtain II last season, now in the NFL. I mean, those are some big-time names. And Hodges Tomlinson, they're looking for him to lead this defensive back group. Owens has to bounce it outside. Decent pickup on first down. One of their more positive plays on first down so far in this game.
Boy, did you see Bud Clark look like he was shot out of a cannon right there in pursuit to make the tackle on the sideline? Bud Clark is a safety that wasn't expected to play a lot, but because of a few injuries there on the back end, he's getting a shot. 6'2" sophomore out of out of Louisiana, making the most of it.
And that's one spot this year where they're looking for some answers. Gary Patterson said, look, we have a lot of talented guys at those safety positions as they have a free play. Somebody jumped on the far side, and it is, I think it was caught on the near side. There are 2 flags on the play, and Mishler's on the ground.
And he's holding that knee. It doesn't look good.
Mishler, a sophomore from Erie, Pennsylvania. This is not what you want to see.
Yeah, he gets hit, and like anything, your knee buckles and it hyperextends. And usually when something like that happens, unfortunately it's an ACL. I know from experience, when I planted my right leg, it hyperextended, and that's where my ACL tore.
That penalty will be declined.
He's the leader of this team. Jerry Schmidt couldn't say enough good things about him.
Previous spot, first down.
We talked a lot O'Shawn Mathis in the pregame here. Watch him as he goes down inside on the fake, but he still gets up and he runs down the quarterback, lowers his shoulder, and does like you're supposed to, run through the quarterback. Unfortunately, it just looks like Joe Mishler's knee planted wrong. And you hate to see injuries, period, Chucky. I mean, that's the last thing we want to see, but in particular in a game like this, before your regular season starts, really, against an opponent that is, deeper, more scholarships, and a wonderful opportunity to represent yourself.
It's good to see him at least under his own power walking off, and they'll hope for the best. That could be it for Joe Mishler. And so here he is, Darius Parentes, a 6-foot sophomore, Los Angeles, California. He's a Rhode Island transfer, played in 3 games for them back in 2019. So a guy that does not have a lot of experience. And here you go. Welcome to Fort Worth, Texas, where the TCU Horned Frogs have one of the better defenses in the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, at any point, if you're going to be a college football quarterback, you're going to get thrown in the deep end at some point, and it just so happens you're going to be in front of, 40,000 people against the TCU Horned Frogs and Gary Patterson.
Now, there were 2 penalties on that last play. There was offside on TCU and defensive holding. So the ball now at the 38, 1st and 10, and Owens will get a carry to start things off for Parentes.
I can only imagine this is what it felt like as a rookie in the NFL going up against Bill Belichick. Just ask Justin Herbert from a year ago. Justin Herbert maybe have had one of the greatest rookie seasons ever, but Bill Belichick went Bill Belichick on him. And Gary Patterson, when he sees somebody who's got, eyes the size of saucers, you take a run at it.
And Duquesne will be glad to see the first quarter end as TCU did exactly what they wanted to do, and they lead it 21-0. Just 15 yards of total offense for Duquesne in the first quarter, and it is all Horned Frogs. Welcome back to the Big 12 now on ESPN Plus here in Fort Worth, Texas. They love what they're seeing from the Horned Frogs. At the end of the first quarter, it's 21-0. TCU leads Duquesne. Alongside Ryan Leaf, I'm Chucky Kempf. And, well, Ryan, this is exactly what TCU wants to do. Everything's going to plan. This is what should be happening for this TCU team, and they're executing well. Parentes handing off to Billy Lucas, who gets back to the line of scrimmage.
D. Winters, another example there. Looks like he was shot out of a cannon there making that tackle. But you are exactly right. First quarter couldn't have gone any better. What you want to do when you play an FCS opponent, you want to dominate. And a lot of times, teams will let them hang around, and it'll be closer to that, and it's more of a bad look if they're not dominating. And this TCU team in the first quarter looked about as good as you could.
Another 3rd and long for Duquesne. This time the first one for Parentes. See if they air it out with him. Flag thrown, and I think
Timeout.
they might have had a timeout first.
Second of the half.
The Dukes get a timeout, their second
30
here
seconds.
in the first half. What's the feeling like in a game like this? I mean, that's what you want, right? The big win, the feeling that, okay, we did exactly what we should do. We can move on to the next one and get this thing rolling.
Yeah, when they look at the film, they're going to look at how well they executed. If they hit their marks, if their eyes were where they were supposed to be, all the things that you coach and practice, because it should never matter who the opponent is. Of course, that's different when you get into the Big 12 and you're playing the likes of Texas or Oklahoma or Kansas State. The guys in front of you are a bit different and makes it a different kind of game. But if you're doing the things that they ask you to do in practice, the efficiency should be there, especially against a team like Duquesne, and it was as perfect as you could make it in the first quarter. And you remember, Gary Patterson talked to us about perfection. If you put out perfection, you get great. You put out great, you get good.
Parentes in trouble and goes down. The first one of the season for O'Shawn Mathis.
Here you go. Watch O'Shawn Mathis go all the way around, and he is just right there again. The speed of the 6'5", 260-pound defensive end. He moves like a safety out there. He's probably got the body fat of a safety too.
Look at this. The right tackle, Vincent Lumia, isn't going to see an O'Shawn Mathis this year.
I don't know how many right tackles are going to see an O'Shawn Mathis this year.
What a punt down inside the 10-yard line. Burned the return man, and that really pins TCU back deep at the 8-yard line. TCU to perfection so far, 3 for 3 on their drives. You see them here, 13 plays, 90 yards and a touchdown, a 60-play drive, and a 49-play drive so far. This time they actually pinned Duggan and company deep.
Those couldn't have been better examples of what to do in those situations, right? You're pinned back, you know, you get out of the shadow of your own end zone with a first down, and that just moves you forward. 13-play drive, 90 yards for their first score, and then every time they've had the ball since. 120 yards passing so far for the TCU Horned Frogs, 0 for the Duquesne Dukes. You know, Kerry Patterson's got to look at those stats from the first quarter and go, okay, this is who we are, and we got to continue doing it. We got to be that team and continue to be those guys. Now, the schedule gets much more difficult because guess what? Justin Wilcox and the California Golden Bears come into town next week. That's a different animal altogether. Justin Wilcox brings a defensive-minded mindset, and they have one of the better quarterbacks in this country in Chase Garbers.
A much different start for TCU this season as opposed to last. Duggan has all day and finally drops it off for a gain of about 4.
Pass play to Marcel Brooks.
Marcel Brooks on the catch and gain of 4. But he comes in last year in a game at halftime against Iowa State. They played 3 of the top teams in the Big 12 across the first 4 weeks and got off to a slow start. But the way they finished, won 5 of 6 to finish their season. We're set to go to a bowl game against Arkansas, feeling really good. That got canceled because of COVID. But this is a team that really finished strong, and this year they get the opportunity, Ryan, to kind of get into more of a groove before they get into that grueling Big 12 schedule.
Well, they get 4 games at home to start the season. I mean, I don't know if you could ask for more on that.
Duggan wants to throw it again. His receiver got knocked down in the secondary. It'll be a penalty.
He better have knocked him down because that guy was going to be as free as you can imagine running down the football field.
Referees will talk it over. He was looking for Blair Conwright. Conwright just got walloped in the secondary.
Holding, number 1, defense. 10-yard penalty added to the end of the run. First down.
Penalty on Jeremiah Josephs. There's those first 4 games. Duquesne, they welcome Cal next week. SMU, a game they lost recently, and they're going to be looking forward to getting one back on them. And then Texas comes to town, and that could be a matchup of 2 ranked teams. TCU right now receiving votes, falls at number 28. Gary Patterson, Jerry Kilsa, they love the way this season starts. Looking downfield, caught by Darius Davis inside the 30, down to the 27-yard line.
This is the best cover 3 beater you could have. Cover 3 is 3 quarters of the, or 3 sides of the field. He just runs right down the middle. Corner's not even looking back inside of the field, and the speed of Davis, just no way you can keep up.
48 again. Max Duggan has all day to throw, but it's intercepted. Leandro DeBrito, a turnover. Duquesne stops TCU for the first time tonight.
Rolling on the field.
Wonderful disguised
Duquesne, first down.
coverage here. Instead of rolling down into that 3 cover like I talked about on the last play, this time DeBrito, watch him. He just kind of hangs in there, watches the quarterback's eyes, and just steps in front of the pass. What a grab. Uses his hands, doesn't let it come into his body. Duggan never saw him. He had his eyes on Blair Conright the whole time, and DeBrito just fell into it. Perfect read on his part. Way to trust his eyes and stay with it.
Everything's been smooth so far for TCU. Can you get too comfortable as a quarterback? Can things be going so well that you're just kind of out there slinging it a little bit?
You know, when we played a couple teams like that, sometimes I wouldn't necessarily have looked at that. I wouldn't have looked that safety off like he didn't, you know, because you just feel so comfortable. Guys are running free wide open. Yeah, he didn't go through his keys there. He didn't look off the safety who could only be the problem for him.
Handoff to Owens, trying to bounce it outside. He's in trouble, and there are purple jerseys everywhere. Back to the 4-yard line. D. Winters in on that tackle.
D. Winters with 65 tackles a year ago in that COVID-shortened season. He's a big leader of this defense at linebacker, along with O'Shawn Mathis.
And Winters has to step up even more. They lose Garrett Wallow, a 5th-round pick who made the Houston Texans and was their leading tackler the last 2 seasons. So they're looking around, looking for somebody to take that torch, and D. Winters seems like a pretty good candidate. Handoff to Owens again. He wants to go outside and does get a couple. There's a late flag thrown. Tough to bounce it outside against the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, it's very rare that you get the opportunity because they set the edge so well.
Offense, half the distance to the goal. Still second down.
And it's holding against Duquesne. These are the guys they're trying to replace this season. They didn't lose a lot from last year, but what they did lose was some really talented players. Wallow, 2 straight years of leading them in tackles. Trayvon Merrick, a 2nd-round draft pick to the Oakland Raiders and the Jim Thorpe Award winner last season, and Ardarius Washington, an all-conference safety as well. So you lose 2 big-time safeties and your top tackler. That's tough to replace.
Yeah, Gary Patterson talked about that, but he felt really confident in what he had on the back end. He knew, though, that they were going to be young and have to make some mistakes. He loves how they fly around the football field, though, because you can't teach that. You just can't.
3rd and 10. Delayed handoff. Owens gets about 2 yards, and they'll have to punt. Earl Barquette in on the stop, the sophomore from Marrero, Louisiana.
What's great as a quarterback, when you know you've made a mistake, that you got a defense that can have your back in moments like that, because, you know, essentially they get it turned around right here. They're going to get the ball in pretty darn good field position after another 3 and out by this TCU defense.
Davis deep to return, and this goes off the side of the foot, and TCU is about to have exceptional field position. 21-0. Duquesne got 1 stop. Can they do it again when we return? football that we always have, and then there is the added impact of the fans returning.
I can't tell you what it was like. You know, we saw less of the broadcasters, right, when we're seeing the televised games. We saw the entrance at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg to enter Sandman. Today in Madison with Jump Around. It's just a different thing. The fans, the history, the pageantry of college football, it's undefeated. It can't be topped.
TCU off to a great start. Kendre Miller getting his first action at running back and gets about 3 yards on the first down carry. They're letting all these running backs have their chance here in this first half.
Well, when you got 4 of them like that, I mean, how do you make up your mind? If you're a defensive coordinator in the Big 12 here and you're preparing for the TCU Horned Frogs this year, imagine having to prepare for 4 different styles at the running back position and how good each and every one of them are.
And their leading rusher as far as tailbacks go, Darwin Barlow, left for USC. Kendre Miller just shoots through the hole, breaking tackles inside the 10. Talk about some of the defenders getting shot out of the cannon. Wow, what a run from Miller.
A lot of times when you have multiple running backs, you kind of look for the thunder and lightning process, and we saw a lot of thunder the first couple series. There's a bit of lightning into the mix.
Duggan right back to Miller, down to the 5-yard line, spinning. It's 2nd and goal. TCU moving quickly, just like they like to do. Outside of the interception that Duggan threw, everything's been perfect for them.
And I'm sure he's kicking himself. You know, he just didn't hit his key. Never looked off that safety before trying to come across the field.
Miller, chance to cap it off. Miller jumps into the end zone. Touchdown, TCU. Everybody getting in on the action for the Horned Frogs. 388 yards rushing last season for the sophomore Kendre Miller, and 2 touchdowns that both came in the last game.
And he's not small by any means. When I talked about his speed and calling him lightning, he's just as big as the other guys. He seems quicker.
Really don't get a break from these big running backs, all of them 200 plus.
After the interception, this drive, no more throwing. Hand it off every single time. Miller into the end zone. Puts the Horned Frogs up 28-0.
Well, Ryan Leaf, how would you like to hand it off to these 2 guys? Both true freshmen last season, and look at those yards per carry. Zach Evans, 7.69, almost 7.2 for Kendre Miller. Evans, 7.7 almost, was 2nd in the nation by a true freshman. Those are just ridiculous numbers.
They are. Every time you give them the football, they almost get a first down for you. How can you go wrong if you're an offensive coordinator calling plays when you got a couple guys back there like that?
3 of those big-time running backs are sophomores. DeMarque Foster is the other one. DeMercado is the only upperclassman. That is a senior from Inglewood, California. Here's the return for Duquesne, looking for some field position near the 20. That's where Joey Isabella gets knocked out of bounds. And the defense for TCU, they've been pretty good as well. They can straight get after you.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say pretty good. They've been great tonight. They have dominated their FCS opponent in Duquesne. They were fast to the football. They were aggressive. They hit their keys. Travius Hodges Tomlinson there using his eyes incredibly well after the interception.
They led the Big 12 in overall defense 3 straight seasons, 17, 18, 19. They were 4th last year, and by Gary Patterson's standards, they want to be better this season. They lost 3 big pieces, but they do have some guys who can make plays. Parentes looking down the field, some contact and an incomplete pass. No flags thrown. He was looking for their best receiver, Cyrus Holder. C.J. Caesar on the coverage, junior from Monroe, Louisiana.
Great coverage. Holder just almost looked like he was trying to box him out, and Caesar just rode him until the ball was over their head.
Parentes trying to find a way to get Duquesne on the board. 2nd and 10 from their own 20. He's going to hand it off this time, Billy Lucas, and he's lifted off the ground by a number of purple shirts.
We saw Jamoy Hodge yesterday when we were walking around in the weight room. He just absolutely was like a snake waiting right there to put the pounding. TCU held its opponents last year to an average distance of 8.8 yards to go. When you are in a situation like that defensively, Gary Patterson can look at his play sheet and have a multitude of play calls to do some fun things. 2nd in the nation.
3rd and 7 this time. They go to Lucas. Really nice cut from Billy Lucas, and they have their 2nd first down of the game. D. Winters on the tackle, but nice work from Billy Lucas, who was the NEC Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's still listed as a freshman. They get the free season, but they really like him as a little change of pace to Garrett Owens.
Jake Dixon, the 6'6", 300-pound left tackle there, really did a good job of pushing the defense, allowing for Lucas to make that, plant his foot, and make the cut.
Lucas in trouble this time. Everybody back there, and it's Jamoy Hodge again on the tackle.
Jamoy Hodge is a little fired up out there. You know what it must feel like for these players who a year ago, you were talking about a lot of these freshmen, true freshmen on the team last year, they've never played in front of fans really. So as a player, you get more hyped when you have the fans around, because guess what? No matter what anybody says, when we were young and we were playing, we loved to play the game, but we loved to do it as to be an entertainer in front of fans as we played the game.
When Hodge only saw action in 2 games last year, had a season-ending injury. 3-star recruit from North Carolina, batted out of the air. The big mitts of Colt Ellison, the junior. 6'4", 255, got his mitts on it.
That's really smart on his part when you know they're running a quick draw and you'd have no chance to get to the quarterback. You just get your hands up in the air in the passing lane home to knock it down. Maybe get it tipped for an interception. And if you're, if you're one of those defensive linemen with great hands, you snag it out of the air and you have a thick 6 the other way.
I like that. 3rd and 11. Lucas not going to be able to get anything this time. Winters, Hodge. TCU fans, get used to those 2 names.
Now you talked about the pieces that had to be filled. I think Gary Patterson has seen tonight that he has some of those jigsaw pieces that he can put into those spots this season.
4th and 9. On comes the punt unit. Davis deep to return for Gary Patterson, who has to be happy with the way this first half has gone. They have a chance to add another score before halftime. Davis wanders over from the 25. He is dangerous and he has space. Darius Davis cuts upfield across the 50. He wants to go the other direction now. He's all over the place looking for blockers and help. Finally brought down near the 47-yard line. TCU having some fun out there. Darius Davis on a 16-yard return. TCU with 4 different guys into the end zone. It all started early on with Max Duggan from 8 yards out. And then Imari DeMercado got in on it. Zach Evans has a touchdown. Hodges Tomlinson with his first career interception. And they've got everything rolling. Miller had the last touchdown. There's Travius Hodges-Tomlinson.
If you've been in the backfield for TCU tonight, you have a touchdown.
Are you saying you could have ran for one if you were out there right now?
I was top speed, super athletic, of course.
And their defense has only allowed 24 yards, so they've done their job as well. 8 yards on the first down carry. It's Kendre Miller again. DeBrito on the stop. Why not give Miller another drive after what he did on the last one? Patient here, trying to stretch it out wide. Gets the first down near the 40-yard line.
That's another first down. TCU.
Kendre Miller, actually the biggest out of those 4 running backs. They're all really close. About 200 to 215 pounds is where they range from. So if you're a tackler, you won't get much rest from a true, just little speedster with these TCU running backs. You better be ready to party all day long. Duggan wants to throw it this time. He's got a man down the sideline. Quentin Johnston, and batted away by Ryan Webb on the recovery.
Just underthrown a little bit. Just underthrown a little bit, which allowed Ryan Webb to get his hand in there. And he's down.
Timeout for an injured player on
wonderful
defense.
defensive play.
Holding that right shoulder, grad transfer. Played in the spring last year.
Timeout on the field.
Wonderful job by Ryan Webb of getting his arm in there. As he goes down, his left shoulder gets wrapped around the head of Quentin Johnston. Wonderful job of disruption by getting his hand in there as he falls. You can see that elbow kind of tweak as he lands.
And Duquesne, having already lost their quarterback Joe Mishler, and now a starting corner in Ryan Webb. And this is a team that things might not be going well tonight, but they played in a conference championship game last year, or last spring I should say, against Sacred Heart. They lost that game, but they're expecting big things this season. They'd like to make another playoff appearance at the FCS level.
Yeah, and this has been a journey for this team, right? They started in Division III. They've moved their way up to non-scholarship university, and then to a place where they started with 6.
As Webb goes off, we'll step away. Ryan Webb off for Duquesne. Another starter for this team out of the game.
That's the one thing when you're going up against a team with such a disparity in terms of depth. You hope, if you're the coach, Jerry Schmidt, that you walk out of a game like this where you're not just so banged up and bruised that when you get to your regular season, you don't have the elite athletes that you need to compete in your conference.
Webb off, Joe Mishler off. Max Duggan looking to lead TCU to a 5th touchdown here in the first half with 3:27 to play. Kendre Miller, 6 straight rushes for TCU, 43 yards. Duggan and company, 2nd and 10 at the 41. They're going to run the option on a little reverse play. Crafty stuff right there, but Duquesne did a really nice job to sniff it out, trying to get it to the speedster J.D. Spielman. And he's knocked out after nothing.
Temi Tope, Agora right there, did a wonderful job of staying home, because, again, this was the 2nd time they tried to get pursuit and have him run right by him. Duquesne does a wonderful job of staying home and setting him up in a 3rd down.
3rd and 8 for Duggan. Little challenge here One that they haven't seen much of. They'll go to Kendre Miller, who has space and a first down, knocked down near the 30. But it's a solid pickup, tackled by Shane Stump.
A lot of confidence in your offensive line there on 3rd and long. And you know you have numbers to let the big fellas up front kind of grade the road for them. And they pick up with first down there with their running game.
1st and 10. When Duggan has thrown, especially, he's had a lot of time in the pocket. Fakes the handoff. Out wide, Blair Conright, who dips out of bounds near the 20, and they'll move the chains again. Conright, a 5'11" sophomore from Lubbock, Texas, 17 catches last year as a freshman.
That's another first down. TCU.
Agoro knocked him out. Whistle. We might have someone down on the near side of the field. The officials are running over to the sideline. And I think the red hat actually just got hurt as the play kind of ended on that side of the field. Let's take a look. They went sliding into his legs, so they'll have to tend to him. Looks like they got him up at least. That is a tough spot to be right there off the sideline. Those guys come flying in. There's really nowhere to go. Good to see him up and sitting. Looks like he's all right. So 7th play of the drive coming up for TCU as they start to wind the clock again. 1st and 10 at the 20. Duggan and company looking for touchdown number 5. Been a really impressive showing for them. The interception, you said it, he'll want that one back. But outside of that, they've pretty much done everything they've wanted to offensively and certainly defensively. Here's Kendre Miller, and he walks it in. That was a wide open hole, but a flag down on the field near the 16-yard line, and the indicator is holding against the offense, so this one's going to be coming back.
Holding, number 79, offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
Usually when there's a hole that size, there was probably a little tugging going on. I mean, there's holding on every single play, don't get me wrong. If you're not holding, you're not trying.
Hey, if you're going to do it, though,
right,
at least get into the end zone. Now, if you hold and there's a loss of yards or you get them at the line of scrimmage, you're thinking, man, you got to hold better.
I know probably Kendre Miller's looking at him like, hey, I can make one guy miss.
That makes it 1st and 16 back at the 26. Duggan quickly out wide to Johnston. He does have options, and he is not afraid to spread it around. We've seen a number of guys touch the ball. You talked about the diversity at wide receiver. Johnston, a big play guy from a year ago at 6'4". They got the speedsters. Look at this formation. They're going to throw it out wide. An offensive lineman out wide for Darius Davis blocking. And Davis finds his way to the end zone. That was Brandon Coleman, the backup left guard, who they think to be one of their best offensive linemen, out wide blocking.
We used to call this formation bamboo, I believe, when we ran it. What they do is they just go 3 outside with 3 in the middle. And if you have the numbers, you let it fly out there. And they had a 3-on-2 right there. And Davis does the rest.
Duggan's to decide then, pre-play, hey, this is where we're going.
Yeah, that's just a numbers game right there. If they don't put enough players out on the perimeter, fire away.
Extra point from Griffin Kell is good. He's 5 for 5. It's 35-zip. TCU over Duquesne.
If you look right here, look at the safety coming all the way across. It's only 2 guys blocking. You make 1 guy miss, it's off to the races for you. He does the rest. J.D. Spielman, the transfer from Nebraska, picking up right where he left off out there in Lincoln.
He had 3 straight 800-yard receiving seasons in Nebraska. He's a big play guy. And I think I said Davis. I will say their game is very similar. Both speedsters, good return men.
You're exactly right. They both look a lot alike. They do a lot of similar things when they get the ball in their hands. Their speed, their size. The Minnesota native has been a welcome addition to this team, and wow, they just have a loaded wide receiver room.
Fair catch signaled for Duquesne. Will start this final drive of theirs in the first half with 51 seconds left at the 25-yard line. Parentes trying to get in some sort of a rhythm.
With 51 seconds here, the last thing you want to do is give them the ball back. But you also want to try to see if you can get something before the half ends. So it's a delicate dance right here on what the Dukes are going to try to do before halftime.
Here it is, 1st and 10. Parentes, little delayed handoff to Owens, and he's gobbled up in the backfield. They lose about 3 on the play. Patrick Jenkins in on the tackle.
That big fella looked like he was looking for a snap, and he went right after him. Another tackle for loss for this TCU defensive front.
Looking for the weight room smoothie bar.
Oh, boy, was that good yesterday or what? Who would have thought you were a little hesitant yesterday about whether or not you were going to accept the smoothie with some spinach in it? I told you, I won't steer you wrong there, brother.
You led the nation in passing. I'm just going to follow your lead.
I like it.
I'm just going to follow your lead.
I like it.
That's it for the first half. TCU did exactly what they wanted to. 35-0. The Horned Frogs lead it at the end of half number 1. TCU and Duquesne. Duggan started things off, and the Horned Frogs have just flat out taken care of business as they lead it 35-0 at halftime. $35-0 TCU leading Duquesne here on the Big 12 now on ESPN+. J.D. Spielman with the last touchdown of the half for TCU to make it a 35-point game, and they have done pretty much whatever they have wanted. 5 different guys find in the end zone, 1 throwing for Duggan, 1 rushing for him as well. 4 plays of 20-plus yards in that first half for this TCU offense, who looked outside of the interception from Duggan, looked really good. You see Miller had 54 yards, 4 catches for 38 for Quentin Johnson, over 200 yards for Duggan. What was your analysis of their first half offensively?
Yeah, pretty darn good. Everything they wanted to do, they were able to be efficient and technical with. Duggan would probably take the only lone thing back was that interception because he didn't key in on that safety. But other than that, they have been a well-oiled machine both on offense and on defense.
Harper Simmons will kick off for TCU. Ezekiel Dower and Joey Isabella deep to return for Duquesne. What are the Dukes looking for in this second half? What do they want to accomplish before they head home?
Well, after what it went down in the first half with a couple of big-time injuries, they want to get out of here clean, right? They want to get out of here with as much intact as they can, but also to execute maybe find a way to get a scoring drive put together, something that goes longer than a few plays.
They'll get decent field position to start as the kickoff goes out of bounds.
Kicking team will put the
And we'll
ball
get
at the 35-yard line. First down.
Another look at Darius Parentes, their backup quarterback, the Los Angeles native, a Rhode Island transfer. His brother, London, actually played basketball at Virginia, was pretty darn good. An athletic family, and he'd like to be the one that leads Duquesne down the field to put up a score on a big-time program. Just 20 total yards of offense for Duquesne. The one thing to me that's really stood out about the TCU defense, and we talked about it, is just their pursuit, the speed and physicality they have at all three levels.
Yeah, incredibly fast from sideline to sideline, and they commit, right? They see their key and they go.
Officials trying to get everything ready, telling them to reset the play clock. Owens in motion. Parentes hands off. Billy Lucas had a couple nice little runs. He looks like he could be dangerous for them. Jamoy Hodge on the tackle.
A little seam there for Lucas, and he found his way through. There's good pickup. You pick up 3 or 4 yards on this defense. You follow that up with another successful play here, put yourself in a 3rd and short. That's exactly the blueprint for the second half for this Duke's team, is just inch by inch execute and try to get first downs and extend drives.
It's the 4th time they've played an FBS school. They go to Ohio next weekend. Parentes airing it out. Jump ball and caught. Nice job by the receiver down the sideline, Cyrus Holder. Their first team all-conference guy, led him in receiving last year with almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, working against C.J. Caesar.
Wonderful job by Parentes, just throwing it up there, giving his receiver a chance. Caesar gets a little push in the back there. Hey, I'm going to get away with a little something here, but a big play by Cyrus Holder there.
48 yards on the throw and catch. Joaquin Gill in motion to the far side. 1st and 10 for Duquesne. Handoff. This time it's Owens. Driven backwards. Gets a block from his quarterback, and Owens makes something out of absolutely nothing. Got about 7 yards on the play, and when he started going backwards, Ryan, I'm thinking this is not good.
No, when you start going backwards on this is a battle right here. Wonderful job by Garrett Owens. Watch him as he gets stuck right there. He spins out. Somehow, Parentes gets his body in front of somebody so he could spring him loose for a little bit further. Again, O'Shawn Mathis in pursuit. Whoa. Dude runs like a safety. 6'5", 260-pound defensive end. Pro scouts, look out.
There's probably a handful of them on this TCU team they're looking for. Owens, another nice run. The vision to cut it back across the field down to the 11-yard line. How about this from the Dukes? A little renewed energy in the second half.
Well, yeah, a couple plays here where TCU doesn't keep contain, and Garrett Owens is able to pop and get around the side. It's incredibly well done by this Dukes team on this drive. Gary Patterson's going to probably be able to use this drive in particular about not getting bored and continuing to do the things you need to do every single down as an example.
This is the Dukes' first trip to the red zone tonight at the 11-yard line. Hand off to Lucas, who stumbles forward to the 7. Had a couple nice plays, big plays, the 48-yard throw to Cyrus Holder, but the one thing that stands out on a couple of these first downs, just getting some positive yards, like you said, chipping away at them a little bit and giving themselves some manageable 2nd and 3rd downs.
This is a win for the Dukes right now to put a drive together like this coming out at halftime in week 1 against a quality opponent. What a wonderful thing if they were able to punch it in for 6.
2nd and 7 for Parentes, just beyond the outstretched hands of Joey Isabella. Had him, but wasn't quite on target. Maybe not on the same page. Isabella almost looked like he kind of stopped in that hole.
Yeah, when you get into man coverage like that, you have to continue out with your break. And you're exactly right, because Parentis was throwing to an open space away from the defender, and Isabella just kind of pulled up, thought maybe he was in a zone coverage and was going to just sit in that void.
That'll bring up 3rd and 7. That ball's batted away. Just jumping up right in the face of Parentis. It's C.J. Caesar on a little corner blitz.
Little corner cat there. He comes flying in, sees the ball about to be thrown, and knowing he's not going to get to the quarterback, he jumps. Pretty good vertical leap there to get up and get his mitts in his face on that football.
They are going to try to put points on the board. Brian Brustowitz on to take the kick. Brock Dieter holding. Brustowitz, it's up, and it is good. What a drive to start the second half for Duquesne. They get on the board here in Fort Worth. 35-3, the Dukes trail. College football here on Big 12 now on ESPN+. We are in Fort Worth, but there are some big matchups in week 1. As you see, Alabama, they really took care of business against Miami. How about Clemson, Georgia, though? The 3-5 matchup, Clemson trailing Georgia 10-0. You made an interesting comment to me yesterday that a team who has lost their opening week has never made the college football playoff. The magnitude of that game can't be overstated.
Yeah, this is essentially a college football playoff semifinal in week 1. How great is that? Catching peaks of it here. Georgia's defense is unbelievably special. Clemson had scored in 143 consecutive games in the first half. That is a streak that ended tonight.
Well, Duquesne with a 8-play, 57-yard drive and across 3 minutes and 41 seconds to get on the board. They will love to take that home with them. But here comes a big-time return. It's J.D. Spielman, the spark plug across midfield. That's what he can do. They are excited to have him back.
In a game like this, of course, you want to see domination on all 3 phases. And there was an example in the special team side of it in the return game. J.D. Spielman, who's been that great addition from Nebraska, a transfer from Nebraska. Wow.
Now, new quarterback into the game for TCU, so Duggan's night is done. It's going to be Matt Downing to step in first, the Georgia native, a 6-foot junior, his 3rd season at TCU. He was the one that started the Iowa State opener last season. Didn't do too bad. Most of his numbers came out of that game. 11 of his 17 completions, 158 yards and a touchdown, and had him in the game at halftime, and that's when Duggan came in and almost brought him back.
Also got 2 yards on the play.
This was a question mark, though, heading into camp for TCU. Who was going to be the backup to Duggan? Chandler Morris, the Oklahoma transfer, also on the roster, and he was kind of the other option fighting with Downing, but Downing has seemingly won that job to back up Duggan as he hands it off, and a nice carry across the 45 and somehow stayed on his feet. That's DeMarque Foster, the sophomore from Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yeah, Coach Patterson really wanted to see Foster in this game. First to test the knee that he's coming back from. That was a big part. They were hoping to give him a bunch of carries, so expect a lot of work from him here in the second half.
Third and 2. Downing, a man in motion again for Foster. Spins, and he might have the first down. It's going to be really close, but he tried to run after he got knocked backwards, and so that ball will be spotted at the line of scrimmage. He'll get nothing. And it looks like a punt coming here for Gary Patterson's group. Is this one of those moments where it's, hey, we get a chance to get the punting unit on the field in the live game and just work them out? Or
yeah, you want to get some live action for these guys because he probably is not going to see much. Now, what you love from the Duquesne Dukes here, and if you're Coach Schmidt, you have to be really pleased with the way his team has come out after a 35-0 beatdown in the first half. Not only to take a drive down the field, but then to get a stop and get the ball back.
Jordy Sandy trying to pin him deep, and a fair catch
Flag on the play.
at about the 12-yard line. A flag on the play. And we'll get that to you when we come back. Thousands affected by Hurricane Ida urgently need support. Donate at redcross.org/ESPN to help the Red Cross respond to and help people recover from this disaster. We see it affecting the sports world as well. Tulane supposed to have a home game against Oklahoma, ends up going up to Norman, and the Sooners actually did something pretty cool, put Tulane's logo on their own field in Norman and got quite the game from Tulane. And then on the NFL side of things, TCU welcoming their third NFL team to work out at their facilities. The New Orleans Saints will be up here on Monday. They'll start to do practice and weightlifting at these facilities. So a great relationship between Gary Patterson, Sean Payton, the Saints. Sean's son, Connor, is actually a student assistant for the football program here at TCU, and they've done a nice job bringing those in. It's got to be a great experience to have those guys around for these college kids as well.
Of course, and we want to wish everybody in Louisiana, especially in New Orleans, a quick and speedy recovery. You're in our thoughts and prayers. Our friend Steve Gleason down there and his family, safe and sound. Love you, brother.
It is TCU football. If you're confused, it was 12 men on the field against Duquesne. Jerry Schmidt was trying to call a timeout but didn't get it off. He was frustrated about that. So the punt does not happen for TCU. Instead, now 2nd and 1 as we get our first look at Quincy Brown in this game. This is a guy that's really intriguing. Jerry Kill said he was really excited to see him and Savion Williams in action. A couple of those young guys. Brown, though, a 4-star recruit, a guy they pulled away from Alabama, Tennessee, basically everybody. Nice throw to the far side by Matt Downing, and a catch on the play by Marcel Brooks.
A wonderful job by Downing of running a little boot action, setting up, and firing one in there. Marcel Brooks goes down to make a catch. You know, Chucky, I just, as a quarterback sitting up here watching the likes of these wide receivers, again, I'm just, I can't keep it inside me, right? And these guys are amazing.
Nothing doing on the rush for DeMarque Foster. Well, TCU, they've had 7 different players rush the football. They've had 8 different guys catch the football. And that's just not an opening week thing as far as the receivers and running backs go. They are going to spread the ball around. They have weapons.
You remember when Jerry Kill, when we talked to him yesterday, he talked to us about when TCU was great, right? When they had young, skilled position players that could play well. And they have that right now. They are loaded with that. They can shore up that offensive line in terms of health. Man, the sky's the limit for this football team this year, I believe.
Foster cuts inside the 10. It is a team that is young in some of those places. The 3 of those 4 running backs are sophomores. Some of those good wide receivers, really talented guys, are just freshmen.
Defender.
But the thing about that is that they may be young, but they're not responsible themselves, right? This is a group effort. There's a ton of them, right? There is a running back by committee mindset.
We'll talk more about those young, talented guys when we come back. 3rd and 5 for TCU. Kevin Kurzinger, the player that left for Duquesne. TCU looking to put together their first scoring drive here in the second half. That's Doug Meacham, the offensive coordinator. We were talking about the youth and the talent on this TCU team, Ryan. I'm a glass half full guy. I say you got all these talented young guys. That's just that much more room to grow as these guys develop and start to learn things early in the season. And, hey, maybe the light bulb clicks on for some of these guys and you really get some big-time performers.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, you would like to have some senior experience, but you have a few wide receivers. The guys that are the leaders in that wide receiver room, Tay Barber, J.D. Spielman, and Darius Davis, all the seniors, they're the ones that are going to be leading by example. But the uber talented and the size of the wide receiver room belongs to those young receivers you were talking about. The impact they can have on this season, when they get into conference play, next week in particular, when they play a big non-conference game against Cal, it's going to be huge.
Matt Downing tried to cap off this drive. 3rd and a long 5. Downing looking inside on a slant pattern. That should be good for a first down. Pass completed to Gunnar Henderson, a junior transfer. His first catch.
5'9", 170 pounds, soaking wet. Gunnar Henderson. Running into the middle there. Picking up a big first down, taking some contact as he falls down for a first down.
Quincy Brown, bottom of your screen. Let's see if Downing gives him a chance at something. Fakes it. He's going to go the other direction, and a miscommunication as he looked to the far side of the field for Marcel Brooks.
You made that comment about Quincy Brown down here at the bottom of the screen. 6'4", 185-pound freshman up against, you know, a tiny corner in comparison. And you have that much room to the outside. I mean, I suppose back in my day it was just a different scenario. I'm checking to a fade route there, and I'm throwing it up to the big fella.
Who was your guy?
I had 5 of them. They were the Fab Five. That's what they called them.
2nd and 5. Downing trying to get out and block for Foster, who gets to the edge, but is finally brought down by about 4 white jerseys. DeBrito came flying over the top at the end. Ezekiel Dower in on that as well. They're still, I mean, give Duquesne a lot of credit. They are playing as hard as they possibly can given the circumstances, and have had a nice little second half here so far.
I wouldn't expect anything less either from the likes of Jerry Schmidt. Around for 17 seasons. What he's able to do, what these players are willing to play for, it's very evident.
3rd and goal from the 4. Downing wants to keep it himself, and he's dropped just shy of the goal line at the 1-yard line.
Same exact play that we saw Max Duggan score in the first quarter. A fake fly sweep, and then the option zone read run by Downing there. Just comes in a little short now, like you talked about earlier, an opportunity to work the special teams. They had a chance to punt, and now they're going to get an opportunity to bring the field goal unit out. It is about the same length as an extra point, but still another rep.
From the far hash for Griffin Kell. Just an 18-yarder. And he puts it through. 38-3 Horned Frogs over the Dukes. TCU, the 4 straight games at home. Next week, it's Cal, then SMU, number 21 Texas coming to town. Is there a spot here in this schedule that you worry about for them?
Well, the 3 games that I really looked at when I was looking at their schedule before the season started was, October 16th at Oklahoma, of course. That's going to be a game that people look at. Kansas State is a team that I think is around an 8-4 type of team this year. They looked really good against Stanford today. They're on the road there as well. And then the season ender at Iowa State. Iowa State, didn't necessarily, beat the brakes off Northern Iowa today. So there's a little concern there. But those are the 3 games that I really could see as a place where they could trip up. I don't necessarily see the Texas week as a huge, step for them. They've dominated that matchup, and then, we're here in Fort Worth for that game. So it could be interesting. They both could be undefeated at the time. College game day could be coming to your city, Fort Worth, if that's the case.
The one thing about the TCU schedule, too, they don't play any of the teams picked to finish in the top 5 of the Big 12 on back-to-back weeks, which last year was not the case because they had Iowa State, Texas, Oklahoma, all of them right out of the gates, and they started 1-3 and then had a tremendous finish to the season.
Yeah, Kansas State was one of those first 4, too. Remember how good Kansas State was at the beginning of the year. They upset Oklahoma early in last year. So, yeah, they won 5 out of their last 6 games, they had that loss at West Virginia, where it's incredibly hard to go to. Morgantown has become a very incredibly hard place to travel to here in the Big 12. But yeah, they closed the season out really, really well. You know, the expectations have got to be pretty high for this TCU Horned Frogs team.
They return 18 starters from a season ago. That's Joaquin Gill trying to get outside and picks up a couple yards.
Speaking of the Big 12, right? Big news today. 4 teams from outside the Big 12 conference have applied for entry into the Big 12. BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. 4 teams that I think bring a pretty diverse fan base and an interesting discussion to have.
Parentes goes out wide, and a decent move to get a couple of yards for Owens. Well, and it all started when OU and Texas came out and said, hey, we're heading to the SEC. And so the Big 12, they've been going to work. And BYU, Houston, UCF, Cincinnati all emerged on Thursday as candidates, possible candidates. Yesterday, it was released, or reported, I should say, that they will apply this week for admission into the Big 12. And the sources in the ESPN article that was written say, hey, this thing can move pretty quick.
Yeah, they could be in the Big 12 before you know it, which I would expect then Bob Bowlesby to maybe reconsider the decision whether or not Oklahoma and Texas finish out their contract, or he just simply says, we have our guys who want to be part of this and what we want to do to make it go forward. You know, adios, you do your own thing, we're going to do ours, and we're going to be really darn good at it.
Nice connection for 26 yards down the sideline. The catch by Cyrus Holder. And you said it, there's some big brands, especially as of recently, what those teams have been able to do on a national scene. You talk about Houston football and basketball, what they were able to do last season.
TCU, first of the half.
UCF.
30 seconds.
Cincinnati, both giant names in the group of 5, been flirting with the college football playoff. Of course, a few years ago under Scott Frost at UCF, they won what they consider their national championship. Going undefeated, definitely the group of 5 national championship for sure. Now, you make this jump, there's going to be a learning curve, because I've said all along, when people have made that conversation about why isn't Cincinnati in the top 4, why isn't UCF, well, if you go play a full season in the Big 12, you're an 8-4 team or a 9-3 team or something, which is very respectable, but that's not going to get you to the college football playoff. Now they have an opportunity. I covered the Pac-12 a lot out west. And when Utah joined years ago with the University of Colorado, Utah was making that jump from the group of 5 to the Power 5. And they took a little time, but they are at the top of what the Pac-12 offers now. And a team like BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati now with the resources of a new TV rights deal with the Big 12, what that can influence, how they go out and recruit, how do they utilize the transfer portal. These are teams that now will be able to bolster a Power 5 schedule. And if this team is in the contention late in the year when the College Football Playoff Committee is taking note, they will be hurt.
The end. Third
Owens
quarter.
For 6 yards. Another nice drive here from Duquesne. There's a pretty good template for how to get it done in the Big 12, and we're sitting in the press box here in Fort Worth. Welcome back to Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus here in Fort Worth on week number 1. TCU leads Duquesne 38-3. How about that third quarter, though, for the Dukes, Ryan? 11 plays for each team. Duquesne outgains TCU 96-42. Jerry Schmidt has to feel fantastic about what they just did in that third quarter. Tied them 3-3.
Definitely. It's exactly what they needed, to see them come out at halftime after a thorough beating in the first half and to extend drives, to make plays, to keep fighting. You know, ironclad from the Iron City, this Duquesne football team that that plays in the shadow of Heinz Field and is just loomed over by the Rooney family who all went there, and how much they afford this Duquesne Dukes team. It's fun to see them continue to fight. They got some players.
Jerry Schmidt, Anthony Doria, and Dave Ofar all talk about the influence that the Steelers and the Rooney family have had on their program. And you see right there the yardage in the third quarter versus the second half, or versus the first half, 96-20. Parentes wanting to throw it, almost a little bit of a dangerous throw, but a nice move on the far side by Henderson. A first down inside the 25, and they continue to move the football.
Well, like I said, you know, we needed to see them get some first downs, extend drives, keep that defense off the field. And sure enough, Parentes, his opportunity here with the loss of Mishler in the first half, he finds the one-on-one option. And like you said, it was a little bit of a dangerous throw, but he kept it far enough outside where Henderson was able to grab it, spin out of the tackle, and get the first down.
12 yards on the play, down to the 23-yard line. 1st and 10. Parentes hands off Owens. Trying to fight off tacklers just about back to the line of scrimmage. O'Shawn Mathis in on the play for TCU.
O'Shawn Mathis is still in the game. That tells you a lot right now. That dude wants to play.
Nobody wants to get hit by that guy. He can move, and he is huge. Who's your guy? Who got you in the NFL worst? Or in college?
Darrell Russell in college out of USC, and then, you know, I'm sure this guy's a lot of quarterbacks' worst hits, but Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis hit me so hard once he lacerated my spleen.
Oh, my. How many stories of him doing that to people are out there? I mean, I got to think hundreds.
I mean, there was violent intent when he was coming after you. And, you know, when you're doing your part and you're looking down the football field trying to make a play, you don't necessarily know who's flying in on you. And when you're not looking, you can do some internal damage. And that's what happened that day. And that was the Super Bowl team. I mean, I remember playing against that defense, and they were about as fast as you can imagine. And Ray Lewis was at the heart of it.
Parentes on 2nd down wants to go down the field. Just a hand fight on the near side. Incomplete pass.
You know, Parentes again identified that there was a blitz coming, found the one-on-one option, and put it up in a place where his wide receiver could make a play. It's just good defense. But I've been impressed with Darius Parentes in his chance here. He's most likely going to be the guy moving forward. We'll see how Joe Mishler comes back in the next couple of weeks, but Parentes has done a heck of a job since entering the football game.
Mishler, we've seen him on crutches on the sideline. Owens trying to get outside, nothing doing. Nice tackle. Moving across the field, D. Winters. He just moves so well from that linebacker position.
And then you got the weak safety right in the middle of the field there, TJ Carter, just barreling down. Boy, the speed in the secondary with the size of these safeties. I mean, Gary Patterson just keeps reloading. He just keeps reloading those types of players, and he gets them to play so fast, so hard, and to continue to do it for 21 years. That's the thing. You know what? In this day and age, people get tired of things, you know, if it doesn't happen every single year, but these players continue to play hard for him.
4th and 15. Parentes looking down the middle of the field, and just nothing doing. Double coverage on Davey Henderson. And that's going to do it. A turnover on downs. TCU will take over when we come back to Fort Worth. Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. Busy next weekend as well. 5 Eastern, Long Island, West Virginia, and then a trio of games at 7 Eastern. Baylor taking on Texas Southern, Southern Illinois, K-State, and Texas Tech, and Stephen F. Austin. Sign up at ESPNplus.com/Big 12 now. Just down the road today, and we saw a lot of K-State fans here in Fort Worth. They were up at the Jerry Dome and beat Stanford.
They didn't beat them. They put a beat down on them. Stanford was a team that I didn't know if they were more of an 8-4 team or a 4-8 team. They looked the latter today against Kansas State, and Kansas State looked the part. They looked like an 8-4 team. I expect probably, I expect some big things out of this conference in terms of teams at the top, right?
Number 60.
I see Oklahoma
Offense,
at the very
5-yard
top. I see
penalty.
Iowa State,
Still
and
first
then there's a
down.
trio of teams in terms of Kansas State, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. TCU certainly now looks the part. Texas looked really good today. They were not surprised by a Louisiana Raging Cajuns team coming to town in Austin. They put a beat down on them. So Steve Sarkisian wins his first game out the gate as the head coach for the Texas Longhorns today.
Reserve lineman Tyler Guyton called for that last penalty. They get some of it back here. You've got Baylor next week under a new head coach. This conference, there are a lot of questions to be answered these first few weeks.
There are. And the way that Oklahoma looked vulnerable today to Tulane, I think that opens the door for a lot of teams. I really do. And I don't think Bob Bowlesby would have any problems handing the championship trophy to somebody else this year.
Handoff to DeMarque Foster. He's getting plenty of work here late in this game. Has to be good, too. Just an obvious note that so many of these TCU guys, as we see a new quarterback, Chandler Morris in there, Foster getting plenty of carries, just the opportunity to get some game action. So if the bell does, or the phone rings here in week 2 or week 3, if somebody goes down, it's not a complete shocker to be out there in real speed game.
It's always important to have live tackling, live hitting, because I mean you get sick and tired of doing it with your own teammates, right? And you don't necessarily it's about care for your teammates too, so you're not necessarily going full out. But I tell you what, this defense, they go full out all the time. They are flying around. Gary Patterson had his starters in there until that last drive, up 38-3, which I think tells you a lot that he needed to see something from this team tonight. And that defensive side of the football showed up for him.
You talked about it, kind of, you're hitting on each other nonstop in practice, just working against each other. Last year, obviously, even more impacted by COVID than this season, than we hope it will be this season. But they didn't play their first game until September 26th, and the schedule just kept changing and changing with certain conferences dropping out and then coming back. And they finally opened their season on September 26th against Iowa State. It's been practicing forever, and I have to think, I mean, maybe you were a big practice guy, but I got to think you're just getting antsy to get on the field.
I like to practice, but they also limit a lot. I think they were only allowed 18 practices this fall for camp, so that's incredible. We did 18 in like 6 days back in the 3 days, and so these guys have it. I mean, we went through the tour yesterday. I mean, things have changed since my college years. The weight room, the facilities. They've had $450 million donated for the renovations. Because it's a private school, all donations have to come from donations. They have to be donated by private donors, and it is amazing. This is a cathedral to college football.
You saw at halftime the feature they put together on the addition to the far side of the press box here at Amon G. Carter Stadium, and we got to walk through that. It's incredible. I mean, we found about 25 different places we'd like to sit down and watch a football game at. Some of the murals they had in of some of their former players. LaDainian Tomlinson was staring right at us. They said when LT walked in, he just meant, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
They brought us into a few suites that some lucky and I would say wealthy alumnus or fans have purchased for the foreseeable future, and they are grand in terms of where they are in position to the field, the amenities that come with it. If you're coming to a TCU football game here in the next decade, everybody, you're going to be thoroughly enjoying it.
Isabella dropped the punt. We'll see who they signal. It looked like he might have had some help from a teammate there to recover it. And scratch that. It's going to be TCU football. So 4:28 to play here in the fourth quarter.
Was a buff kick. Recovered by the
A mistake there from the Dukes. Horned Frog football when we get back. Isabella drops it. TCU recovers. It's been all TCU here in Fort Worth. You see Max Duggan, the starting quarterback's numbers, over 200 yards passing. Started things off with an 8-yard rushing touchdown, and TCU's defense in that first half was spectacular. Just 20 yards allowed. The big problem for Duquesne, Joe Mishler, their starting quarterback, leaves late in the first quarter. Just did not want to see that, especially in a game like this. But Duggan and TCU, they'll be happy with the way things have gone. And the landscape of college football is changing so much, and college athletics in general, with the transfer portal and the new NIL rules. And Max Duggan, a guy who is a perfect candidate for that, Ryan. You yourself would have been a perfect candidate for it, but Duggan has said pretty much, like, look, I'm not going to deal with it this year, as they find a touchdown. That's Chandler Morris on the pass, Blake Noel on the reception.
Wonderful job by Morris. He gets the one-on-one option out there on the outside, and he puts it perfectly in Blake Noel's hands. The Ardmore, Oklahoma native, wide open in the end zone.
Morris, the Oklahoma transfer at quarterback, he'll like that. And Griffin Kell on for another extra point. He's been perfect so far tonight. 4:20 to play here in the fourth quarter. It's a big TCU lead, and the extra point is up and good. We'll talk NIL with Ryan Leaf, who would have just raked it in back in the day, when we come back. As TCU, Chandler Morris finding Blake Noel in the end zone. TCU touchdown. Blake Noel with the touchdown reception to make it 45-3 TCU over Duquesne. Ryan, we're talking NIL before we went to the break. Name, image, likeness. This is the new thing in the NCAA that allows the athletes to profit on endorsements and able to have representation to acquire those deals. The only rule is that it prevents the schools from paying them directly. You look at guys out of high school, especially some of these athletes, the really big-time guys with the social media following that they have, and that's one of the big things. You can advertise through social media, autographs, lessons, whatever it might be, just can't profit from the school directly. Is this a positive for college athletics moving forward?
Of course it is, because there was just so much available to them in terms of the social media aspect of things. I knew a bunch of players that had wonderful YouTube followings, which is the way that it's going now, and they can advertise on that. They monetize those sites, and the fact that the guy down the hall in the dorm living next to you could do it and make money on his name, image, and likeness, and you were playing football at that university and you were unable to do that, that was the crime in all of that, and it finally got changed. Now the NCAA took a little bit of a tail whooping from the Supreme Court, and that's what happens when you want to fight something that ultimately is going to be on the right side of history. And I think it's great for the student athlete. I don't expect it to change the game that much, because businessmen who are willing to do this, they're not stupid. The reason why they're wealthy businessmen is because they know what to do and how to invest their money. So they're just not going to be throwing money all over the place. They're going to get something in return for their effort.
Bryce Veasley in for Duquesne. They've talked about some of the big-time college athletes that have come up, and you think of the Reggie Bushes, and quite honestly, not just messing with you, yourself would have been one of those guys that would have had some really good opportunities. I mean, has this been a long time coming?
It has been a long time. We were looking at it. We were looking at it in terms of what I would have probably made that final year with the fact that Nike was our sponsor, that what we were able to do in the Inland Northwest, somewhere around $3 million was the number that we saw. as a Heisman finalist, as an All-American, leading the country in passing, all those things, and going to a Rose Bowl for the first time in 67 years. So yeah, there is an opportunity for some of the elite athletes at the very top of the game, and then there's also the opportunity for guys that aren't going to play professionally, who don't have a chance to make those types of dollars, to pad their pocketbooks. But more importantly, you develop relationships sometimes with these maybe Fortune 500 companies as an underclassman. And then when you get out of college, you've already built a relationship with them. They know how hard you work. And you may go into the workforce with their company and build something there. So there's all these different ways you can make introductions, build business acquaintances, and build towards a future.
NIL, one of probably the biggest change. I mean, we see a lot too with the transfer portal and the one free one, pretty much, that guys can just go and say, hey, I'm ready to roll. Now that one I have to think from a coaching standpoint can be a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. What will be interesting, and I don't believe this could be something that could happen, but what happens when a player is getting paid more money than the head coach through this process? Because inevitably, Nick Saban steps up in front of the Texas High School Association's conference of coaches and says Bryce Young, his quarterback who hasn't taken a snap yet, has already signed for over $1 million worth of NIL deals. Now, I do believe that Nick Saban knows what the heck he's doing, and he was talking to a lot of high school coaches, and what he was firmly saying is that, hey, you don't even have to take a snap at Alabama. The Alabama brand alone will get you paid. And that tells a lot of high school coaches that, oh, my player, if he goes to Alabama, has an opportunity to make a lot of money, not only as a football player, but as a person in the public eye.
Really nice punt down to the 21-yard line as TCU takes over, and the clock stops at $1:58 left in this game. J.D. Spielman back for TCU. They still have some injuries. Noah Daniels, one of their corners. Deshaun McCune, a safety that they're looking to get back. They think they might be able to come back for Cal next week. And one guy in the defensive line in the front seven for this team was really, really good today. Front six, I should say. But Kyrie Coleman was an ESPN true freshman All-American last year. He didn't play today. He just burst onto the scene. And you got a guy like Coleman and O'Shawn Mathis on your ends, and Gary Patterson sleeps well at night knowing those guys are going to get to the QB.
Yeah, and then you add Corey Bethley, Earl Burkett. I mean, he's asking for that three-down lineman look to get to the quarterback, because that frees him up to do so many different things on the back end. He's begging for that. And I think they're going to have the guys to be able to do it. Now, the Big 12 Conference is going to be much more difficult than who they're playing tonight, but he's compiled a wonderful roster of players that are going to play hard and give them everything they have.
A fourth quarterback into the game for TCU, freshman from Naperville, Illinois, Sam Jackson. Giving Darrell Reynolds a couple carries here late in this game. 2nd and 9. They'll just let this clock tick, and TCU going to start the season exactly how they had planned and had hoped to, with a win over Duquesne tonight. Little quarterback keeper right here, and Danson down for about 8 yards. A nice pickup on the play by Jackson. Before we get to TCU, we'll talk about them in a moment, but to touch on what Duquesne did tonight, Ryan, especially in the second half, this is a team that has a good chance to win their conference and to potentially make another playoff appearance from what we've seen. Even losing their quarterback, Mitchell, I mean, Parenta's looked good tonight.
He did. It's unfortunate that their leader at the quarterback position went down. Next guy up mentality. I thought they did a tremendous job coming out of halftime. Showed no quit. Head coach Jerry Schmidt's got to be really happy to step on the plane with this team heading home.
Another keeper and a first down. A couple of yards there for Jackson. He wants the football here late in the game, so I'm going to keep it myself a few times and pick up some yards, and that's going to do it. The TCU Horned Frogs will improve to 1-0 on the season. Gary Patterson's group gets the job done 45-3. What's going through Gary Patterson's mind after this game tonight?
Well, he's got to be extremely pleased with how well they play, but he's also got to be even more pleased because they're so darn young. They have 50 underclassmen, like around 50 freshmen, either new freshmen or COVID freshmen, however you want to look at it. I mean, he's got to be extremely pleased with how they went out and played tonight. One mistake. I really saw one mistake all night, and that was Max Duggan, not reading his key and throwing into some traffic on an interception. With this defense, you can make some mistakes like that.
Well, they head to their second week with their first 4 home games with a win. They get a good test next week against Cal, and then it's SMU and Texas. For my partner Ryan Leaf and our entire crew here in Fort Worth, I'm Chucky Kemp saying so long, everyone. Thanks for joining us. College football is back.